Welcome to How to Write Good. I'm your host, Daniel Poppy. You can find out more about me at danielpoppy.com. You can also check out my book, The Ninth Hour, on Amazon, or you can check out my serialized story if you don't want to grab the book. You can check that out on my website, danielpoppy.com, as well. If you can check that out on this feed. So if you go down, there should be bonus episodes, and they say One Last Toast for Ebenezer Fleet in the front of the episode. Or if you look on it on any podcasting device, besides looking on it on iHeartRadio, you can find it. So check that out as well. This week we have, I have another musician. This is a solo artist. He is actually from Brazil. I recorded this before. I made a mistake of saying Portugal. He's actually from Brazil. And if you want to check him out, his name is Igor Leal. Leal is spelled Leal. And his website is igorlealmusic.com, or you can find him on Instagram at Igor Sings. All right, Igor, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure.
Okay, so just to start out with stuff, one thing that's so typically what I notice, like I was mentioning to you just before we started, that my buddy is does music. He's in a band. So with him, what I have talked about him before is like, hey, being in a band is different than writing, because I'm a writer, and so typically you're in a band, so you can bounce ideas off of people. It's a very social thing, and I think writing's social. It's just in a different way. But
Sure.
So you are actually a solo musician, right? If I get that correct.
Yes, right now I'm a solo musician. It's just me, the guitar, and the looping pedals.
Oh, sweet. So you do looping.
Yeah, I do some looping. Nothing crazy like Ed Sheeran does.
Yeah.
But I fill up the spaces, with the looping pedal the best I can.
Okay, so what is the process looking like as a solo musician? Because I think that's something that takes a lot of perseverance, or doing anything by yourself, where you're just like, hey, I want to do this, so I'm going to do this. Like, can you, I'm actually interested in hearing about that process, and like how you get from just starting out and being like, I'm going to decide to do this, and then through the process of just still continuing to be a solo artist or musician, whatever you want to call it.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really good question for sure. I always played by myself since I started. I would, when I started playing when I was 14, and I would lock myself into my room and play for hours and hours and hours. And I think I just got used to play by myself, and it kind of wasn't really a choice. I kind of like just play by myself and kind of follow their way. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing this until now, just playing the guitar and singing, just voicing guitar.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much, it wasn't really a choice, but that was, the easiest way.
Yeah.
To do music and do gigs and stuff, because when you deal with people, you got to deal with the schedules, and that's pretty challenging sometimes.
I've noticed that as well with other musicians, where they're like, oh, we're gonna try to find time to record stuff, and for me, I'm like, well, because for writing, you're just like, well, I just have to block out an hour here, an hour there, and just figure stuff out. So I guess it's probably similar if you're just by yourself, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like your rules and everything. So it has a lot of advantages to it, and it has a lot of disadvantages to it too.
What would some of the disadvantages be?
Just like you said, it's awesome when we have like multiple brains working toward one end, and that can bring different perspectives to the song, different perspectives to the songwriting process, and that's always gold, in my opinion.
I had a question for you that I just completely forgot about. Actually, I want to ask him this question. I should have written it down, because otherwise it just goes out of my mind completely. Is your family? This is what it is. Is your family pretty supportive, or were they throughout the process of you like learning and pretty much having a musical career, or like pursuing that?
It's very divided. I half of my family really supports it, and half of my family really don't support it. Um, just because my dad's a farmer,
Oh, really?
you know,
Yeah.
he's really traditional guy,
Yeah.
and some people really don't understand
Whoops,
that
sorry.
music is really, one of the toughest professions you can do, because you deal with so many different fields, marketing,
Yeah.
production, media, and all that stuff. And so I would say my family in general, they support me pretty much. They trust my job.
Did it, so is your whole family pretty? So your dad's a farmer. Is your whole family fairly traditional when it comes to like jobs and stuff like that? Are they more? Because my family's from the middle of nowhere. Just put it that way. Because you know Wisconsin. Okay, so if you don't know, Igor's from Portugal. Just put it out there. So if you can't
Oh,
tell
I'm
me that he doesn't
actually
actually,
from Brazil.
or
We do
Brazil.
speak Portuguese.
I'm sorry. I knew that. I was thinking Brazil. He's from Brazil. He's not from
Hmm.
Portugal. They speak Portuguese. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry about that. That's what I meant. So my family, they live like on the western side of Wisconsin, in like my parents, not my whole entire family, in the middle of
Hmm.
nowhere essentially. And for them, they don't farm. They just live in that area. But there's a lot of farmers in that area, and it's a lot more. It's a lot slower.
Okay.
Are you from an area that's like more rural, I guess?
Man, yes, I'm from like the one of the farmers estate in Brazil called Mato Grosso,
Okay.
and that means big field, and it's very very traditional state. I would say kind of like the Wisconsin from Brazil
Oh,
type
really?
of thing.
Huh.
Yeah. Hmm. We don't have as good cheese as we do here, but we do have some good steaks on there.
Is it a lot of? It's a lot of beef then.
A lot of beef, a lot of
I like trying to find like food connections because in Wisconsin we have so much dairy, and so there's so much cheese. It's just like, oh, like what do you do over there that's similar? And I'm glad that you have beef there. Are burgers a thing? Like, can you find a good burger in Brazil?
man, burgers are good there, but not the same as United
Okay,
States.
okay.
We have the best burgers here in America.
That's what I hear. And this was a mistake. I was in Denmark with a friend,
Hmm.
and we were in Europe for probably 3 weeks by that time, and we were just
Well,
like, man, we just want a burger. So we went to Denmark. We spent like probably probably $25 on a burger each, just like when you switch it over to
dang.
dollars, because it's so expensive up there. And we ate the
Yeah,
burger. We both looked at each other. We're like, yeah, it's not the same. This isn't a very good burger at all. Because
that's like,
yeah,
yeah, I feel like, when we have burgers here in America and you go either in Brazil or Europe, I don't know, man. I feel like it's driving a Ferrari and then suddenly you just get like a Toyota from '85.
yeah.
You
No,
just
it
cannot
definitely
enjoy
is
the ride
different.
anymore.
Yeah, and you've got to like the thing about it is it was stupid because I knew, and we both knew that we were in the wrong country for burgers. So you just got to bring. I don't know. If you have beef, if you have good beef, but the thing about it is you need beef and you need cheese too. So you need cheese in
Mm,
abundance. You need beef in abundance. Um, but yeah, I think that's like what you need. But I think you could probably figure out a way to make a really good burger down there and get it going.
mm.
You just have to figure it out. Got to bring somebody from the United States in to be like, hey, this is how you do it. But yeah,
Yes, I mean the way you make it, it's always important. It's always um, just like you said, not only the ingredients, but like the way you make it, and that goes into music too.
yeah, yeah, and it's all connected. Um,
Yeah, like the way you do stuff really matters.
for so your family is is supportive of you doing music. Is what I noticed living out in like the country and living around more farmers and in that kind of area is that people don't. I'm not bashing the people who live there. Like I know a lot of people there. I like a lot of people who live there and everything like that. But they
Hmm.
don't seem to appreciate art as much because like they're very like I think they're very practical generally. I don't know, and I think they probably don't appreciate art as much because there's a lot of people who are, either in artistic fields or who are what would you call it? Who are the elites, like they're the intellectuals in the art world, and they sometimes put out art, like really modern art that is 3 colors. You know what I'm talking about? And then they tell people that you need to like this art because this is phenomenal. And normal people look at that, they're like, I don't really like that. Maybe some of them will, but like most of them probably are like, I don't really see what's so special about that. So I think that they kind of feel pushed away from that in a way. But I was just wondering, like, in Brazil, is it similar? Is there in more rural areas or people doing work like your dad? Is it are they more connected to the arts, like connected to creating it and supporting people who make it?
It's yeah, that's a really good question. They generally they don't really support.
Okay.
Because they're very traditional, and it's like more like a cultural thing. And they don't believe, a lot of people, because we don't have a syllabus for like how to make in the music business.
Yeah.
Nobody wrote that, and nobody like has a course that when you get there, it's like 100% you're gonna make it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it becomes really tough for people to believe, to respect, sometimes even to appreciate this kind of work. But yes.
Yeah, and just not to interrupt you, but I think from my perspective, I think people don't realize how much work goes into it,
Absolutely, man.
And
yeah.
I think that those people, like I said, your dad's a farmer. I'm sure you're not coming from a perspective where you're saying farmers are bad or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people. I have a friend who that's what his job is, but he definitely appreciates like playing music, and I really like that. And I know some people in those areas that really like it. But I think that you're right. I think that what was I going to say? I think that from what I see, they maybe see the work they do, and they don't see making music as doing work, when it does take a lot of work to get going, or even continue on it. You have to do a lot of work just to stay where you're at.
Yeah, man, exactly. Music. I like to always make this analogy that the music is like a kitchen. Like music business. I feel like it's like a kitchen where we work a lot. We make all the mess. Like imagine like the messiest kitchen ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like bugs flying away and bunch of meat and like ingredients everywhere, and it just like a freak cookie cook doing stuff, and then suddenly you just bring that plate out and you just give it to a person. It's a beautiful plate and everything is into place and everything is pretty and the food's healthy and everything, and just put on the table and people consume that and they think, oh, that's so pretty, that's so amazing, but they don't know like how much mess we had to make before and how much work it was to actually make that, that 3-minute song that you listen to, or that show.
Yeah.
So, and even myself, I didn't even know that. So I feel that's the challenge right there.
Yeah, because I think I don't know. Here we can have a fight over this. Is music appreciated more, or is writing appreciated more? I have an opinion on this, and I have a good reason. What do you think?
Oh man, that's a good question. I actually never thought about it. But you mean
do people value music more, or someone writing more?
Oh, if they value like the songwriter or
No.
the musician itself?
Okay, so I write stuff. I don't do anything with music. It's been a long time since I played anything. So I write stuff. I write like books. So do you think, and you're the musician, so you make the music. So do you think that people value music more or books more, essentially?
Books for sure.
Really?
I feel like.
Okay. No,
what do you think?
No. Explain yourself, and then I'll explain. I disagree, but I want to hear what you're thinking.
Cool. I feel like, of course, it depends on the book and the music.
Okay.
But I feel like books more is a little more inclinated to educational purposes.
Okay.
And I'm not a writer, but I can ask you that. But I feel like people would have a perspective, at least my family, if I was a writer myself, putting myself in a writer position, I feel my dad would probably respect me a little more for being a writer, because that has like a little more educational, type of background on it. What do you think about it?
Okay, so I think that people value music. Okay, so I think that you are on to something with what you're saying, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But I think people value music more because it's easier to consume, because you have to put more effort actually into reading something.
Mm-hmm.
So let me think. So I think that people like things that are more, and I think music is awesome. I'm not bashing it. You don't have to actually sit down and like, you can sit down and listen to it to appreciate it more, but you don't have to, to write, you actually have to read, you actually have to engage with the book directly. So I think that most people don't want to do that. So they're more likely to be like, oh, I really love this song. But it might be the case that more people, maybe it's the case that you're correct that people who really like books value books more, because maybe it's the case that everybody listens to music. So they're like, oh yeah, this is great. But the people who like books and actually read really like books and actually read. But what you were saying before is that you think that people view writers as more, not with more value, but with more respect than musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because musicians are vagrants.
Because there are a lot of connotation about like music and drugs from the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
That some people should believe, that all musicians are doing drugs all the time to make art.
24/7 drug trip, right? That's what I understand it to be, right? It's just like you get done, you're like, yeah, we're done with one trip. All right, let's light up again. We're good.
So I feel that's a little challenging too, but for sure, man, I feel like books are a little harder to marketing. I think you're right in that too.
Yeah, but once you get people who really like the book, I mean, they really like the book, and it's different too, because you're dealing with a story and you're dealing with like an emotion or a feeling, like how would you describe, like, what are you trying to convey with music? Like, emotion? I don't know.
I feel like we all have feelings and we all go through hard stuff in life. We share life. All the struggles I have, somebody probably had too. So when I'm writing a song, I always think about it. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you put two acoustic guitars in a room, and it's like a closed room, and you play one string of the guitar in this room, so the sounds, the vibration from that string is gonna vibrate the same string in the other side of the room of this guitar, because they're in tune.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that it vibrated the same exact string. I knew it would do something to the guitar, but I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it will vibrate the same string, and I feel like every person has a string in themselves. Mm-hmm. So when I play about an emotion, let's say about love, for example, and I really get the right tune and the right message, that's gonna touch the string in your heart too. So I feel like that's the goal with music. Kind of get the right message, because we all share so many emotions, that are extremely similar. Different situations, but extremely similar. So I feel like that's the musician's job, to find this communication, to make this communication natural, just like the guitar in the room.
No, I actually really like that. It seems, so this is, we haven't talked before this for people listening, but it seems like you're very metaphorical, like poetic in how you talk or like how you think, which I think is really cool. Because you had music is like a kitchen, music, like you have this connection to people with, and you connect it back to the strings on the guitar, which I've never heard that. I've never heard someone talk about that before, but I've never heard someone use it as an analogy for connecting back to people. But I actually really like that because I think art is social, any type, whatever you're doing. It's like meant to be looked at, or it's meant to be read, or it's meant to be listened to. It's not just, you're trying to communicate something to someone else.
Yeah, yeah. I do love metaphors a lot. I feel like that's makes so easy to communication and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I feel that's really the goal. To be like, well, we are almost the same. Really, really almost the same.
Yeah. I think it was a month ago I was thinking about like there's, to a certain degree, there's like a push in the United States to say that you shouldn't try to like write, or I think it's mostly for writers. You shouldn't try to write from someone who's not in your perspective, right? So if you aren't in whatever group, you can't write from that group's perspective. And what I always thought, and you can definitely agree with me on this, is part of making something, like trying to be creative, is trying to stretch beyond yourself. And trying to, hey, maybe I'm not going to be even good at doing this, but I'm trying to look from that perspective and doing the best I can. And I mean, you definitely can disagree with that. And I think that somebody who's coming from that perspective, it probably can do it in a lot better way than you're capable, like you or I are capable of. But at the same time, I think it's important to at least try to do it and be like, hey, I'm at least trying to get beyond what my experiences are and get beyond what I think, and trying to grow beyond that. And I think that one way you do that, one way people who are like musicians or writers, whatever, they do that is actually connecting to other people. You connect to other people. You connect to people who are similar to yourself, people who are different to yourself, people who have different experiences. And then you kind of are able to understand that better. And then because from a writer's perspective, I've got to try to like speak from different people's perspectives, because just you have different characters in a book, and I can't do that perfectly. I'm not capable of actually doing that in I don't know, but at the same time, that's what you're always doing.
Oh man, yeah, that's so interesting. For sure. I mean, we gotta step out of the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that's how we grow, man.
Yeah.
Because if we do the same stuff all the time, we're never gonna get different results, true. So we're always changing. And I'm gonna give you another metaphor, just like the clouds, we're changing.
Okay, cool. Hit me with it. I mean,
did you hear that, Daniel?
No.
I said before, we're changing just like the clouds. They never stay the same. They're changing every minute. Just look at the sky, and I feel like we're the same. If we stay the same, bro, we just we just spend life. I don't know, man. I feel like that's a waste. I like to experiment. I've been to blues before, Brazilian music, jazz, and so that way, like, you can kind of go everywhere, and then you have like a better position to put yourself in. Let's say if you're writing a book, in a character's place, So I feel that's essential. That's really essential.
And like, I think that if you sit in your comfort zone, if you're just always in your comfort zone, I think you feel like, or you can feel like, this is your purpose because you're comfortable. But I think that if you want to get into like your own purpose, or the purpose of people in general, I think that people, if people have a purpose, right, it's part of it is growing. It's not just staying where you're at. It's like, it's getting better. It's experiencing new things. It's finding what you're the best at, and like pursuing that and seeing if you can get really good at that too, and like struggling through. I think struggle is like a really, really important part of life. And I think that it stinks. It's like, sucks to go through, but at the same time, at least for me, the times of my life that I've grown the most, when I look back, I'm like, that was really bad. I hated it when I was in it, but at the same time, I come out the other end, and I've grown so much, and I've developed so much, and those like sharp corners on me, I like smooth down. I can't remember where this is. It kind of reminds me of if you know anything about like what do you call it? Making a statue out of stone. What they do with a statue out of stone is like, you cut the basic shape out, and then you slowly make all the features, and you slowly give it more and more detail. And that's kind of what it feels like to me, like, it's like, or you have more of like the biblical metaphor of you're going through your gold, but your gold that has a lot of impurities in it, and you're going through a fire, and then you're being purified of all the impurities, and you're coming out the other end, and you're actually getting better. And I really like that, and I think that's what it feels like, and I think that's what I think that people who are doing creative stuff, I don't think it's like the most important job in the world, right? But I think it is an important thing. I think probably the most important job in the world is taking care of your kids, taking care of other people, right?
But somehow,
like that,
but somehow, Daniel,
yeah, go ahead.
Somehow we are taking care of people, because maybe a book or maybe a song can change a person's life. Let's say maybe I write a song that this person listened to it, and maybe she was supposed to commit a suicide.
Yeah, true.
And suddenly the lyrics and the message kind of took this person away from that place she was at. So I feel like every job has its importance.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And not as clear as like taking care of a kid, of sure, but I feel like it's still extremely important. Writers, musicians, and artists too, man, that's essential. I feel like that's really necessary. And you were talking about arts and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you seen already. There's an art. It's an artist, I think, from France. He was a sculptor, and it's called, and he made a one that's called the Self-Made Man. Have you seen this one, Daniel?
No, I don't think so.
And it's a man. It's a man that's look it up. It's a man that's basically, I don't even know how to explain, man. Maybe you can take a look, and you as an English speaker, you have more words than me to say that. I can
find it. Is it Edgar Degas? Degas
yes.
is how you spell his name.
Yes, I think so. The Self-Made Man.
Is it okay? Let me see. Edgar Degas, and I'm just looking it up. Degas, Self-Made Man. I wonder if it's called that though. That's the issue. I see a self-portraits, but I'm not seeing that. But I'll figure out what it is.
Self-Made Man. Should I sing a song while you search for that?
No, that's fine. We can keep on talking. I'll have to look it up sometime later. I can always. But what's the point about it? And I can always like look it up.
Yeah, let me try to explain for the listeners the best I can. It's basically a man who was locked into the rock block, and he sculpted himself out of the block.
Oh, okay.
So, and I like that analogy because even if you're basically taking little pieces out of you, like it's uncomfortable, and I feel that's how it is for you to really be how you want to be.
I think I've seen that, actually.
Yeah, it's a very famous sculpture, and it's very thoughtful for sure.
Yeah, and it's a painful process, and definitely is a painful process. I had a thought, now I can't remember what it was. I have trouble like this. I don't think... I don't keep everything in my mind at once. It just all kind of comes and then it goes. And if I don't write it down, that's why I write. That's one of the reasons. That's really helpful with me because then I write and then I actually remember what I wrote and I can go back and I can look at it. But when I talk, like I said, when I talk to people, I just kind of it goes everywhere. That's why it doesn't even matter. Like
I feel like creative minds are like this.
If you're like that, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, honestly.
Man, I carry a recorder on my pocket all the time. Yeah, not even like my phone recorder, but like ideas, one button that I can do. Yeah.
Tunes? Like, do you put tunes into it or like just ideas?
Yeah, like tones and ideas or melodies, because they really come and go so fast.
Hmm.
So I definitely can relate to you with that.
Yeah, for me, I've gotten out of practice, but when I walk around, and maybe you can connect to this as well. So when I walk around in my daily life, and it's kind of like it's you have to take your time. It's not that you're just taking your time and going slow everywhere, but it's that's the best way I can describe it. So
Mm.
if I have my eyes open, I see things that I'm like, oh, that's a great idea for like a story. Oh, that's a really really cool aspect of reality that I'd love to write about, and all these different things that I don't know. It's
Bingo.
hard to explain it, but it's just like there's all
Yes.
these tons of different things, and you have to be tuned in. That's a good way to describe it. It's like you're on the right frequency to see them, and everybody can see them, but they don't see them in the same way. And to see the idea, you just have to be tuned into the right frequency, and suddenly you're like, wow, that's really cool, or wow, I can't believe like I just saw that, or I just experienced that, or you just have an idea pop in your head. You're like, oh, that's really awesome. I love to add that in. So I'm
Whoa.
trying to do it again. I used to do it really well, where I keep a notebook and I put all my ideas in it. And I actually took a writing class just
Hmm.
like a year ago or something like that. And so I've been doing like keeping ideas written down and different, not even story ideas, but just experience ideas, if you want to call it that. I've been
Okay.
doing that for since like 15 years old. And then I was in this writing class, and then the professor's like, oh, so what I want you to do is, if you have any ideas, you should have them written down in a book. Ideas, things that you think are interesting in life, or things that you see, or things in nature, or things that interactions between two people. I'm like, oh, I already do this. So it's just kind of like, oh, that's cool that like he's suggesting that, because it's just something I did naturally because I was just seeing all these cool things in life.
Whoa. Whoa, man. That's so true. That's so true. I feel that's our job. Like you as a writer, me as a songwriter, we take little pieces, and you kind of be mindful. Like we're living stuff and like, oh, I could use that, on that page, or could
Mm-hmm.
use this on that song. I don't remember the other day. I think I was driving through Nashville, actually Monday or Tuesday this week, and and I saw like a street name, and I just wrote down. I was like, that's the name of a song.
Yeah,
When you're just
exactly.
like
That's
really,
it. That's it.
really working on the creative process,
Yeah.
like 24 hours there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're kind of crazy, aren't we?
It's a different way of doing things, and I mean everybody has their place, and I like that I can do this. I like that it's just part of what I do and part of who I am. But yeah, it's just like it does seem it's a little out of the ordinary, that's for sure.
Yes, for sure. So, probably that's why, this challenge of people respecting and not supporting, maybe, because it's hard to understand. Some people just can't.
Yeah, and I think I think some people can't maybe, and then two, I think it's easy to get jealous. It's easy to see someone else, and
Mm,
like you're not Ed Sheeran, but I'm sure there's been times in your life, especially probably when you were starting out with music, where you're like, man, I'd love to be this far along, or I'd love to be doing bigger shows or something like that. And maybe even
hmm.
now you're like, man, I'd love to do that, but at the same time, if you do that and if you're jealous of somebody else, and you're looking at what somebody else has, you're like, it's not helpful for
It's
at least.
poison.
Yeah, it's poison. It shuts down the creative process for me pretty much immediately. As soon as I start looking at, oh, this person's doing so well, and I wish I was doing better, then when I sit down and write, it's so much harder. And I just need to stop, and I need to be like, hey, I just need to enjoy my life, and I need to enjoy the little things that I'm seeing, so that I can sit down and I can make something that really connects to other people.
Just be relaxed about it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason why whoever is making music, painting, writing, there's a reason why you're not where you're at yet. And it might be the case that
Hmm.
you're never going to be unbelievably big. You might not be a worldwide superstar. Probably not, right? But at the same time,
Hmm.
being in that position might give you something that allows you to really connect to people in a creative way?
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that, and yeah, there's a reason why, you know, maybe thousands of artists are not there yet. But but yeah, man, one thing I wanted to talk with you is like, all this world so connected in like Instagram where we can see other artists. And I kind of felt the same as you because I would, go on Instagram and see like, oh man, like this girl, this guy, they're making so much music, like great music. So that kind of drains your energy to do because you start comparing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so bad. Like it just like makes the creative process so heavy, and it's supposed to be exactly the opposite. And yeah, man, I feel like the more relaxed we do stuff in this field, the better it is.
Yeah, and it's not that it's not hard work. It's just you're not stressing over it.
Yeah, like understanding that art is abstract, okay? So sometimes what is the most beautiful thing for you is like the ugliest thing for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that there are probably 1,000 people out there, Daniel, that your book would be like their favorite book, and that nobody else in the world can write exactly like you, as unique as you. Just like the digitals in your thumb, in your fingers, And there are like 1,000 people that will love my voice or love my songs out there. I feel like that's a matter of connection, and that's it. Mm-hmm.
And like that's still 1,000 people, who really.
That's all you need, man.
That is all you. Yeah, exactly. And actually, I was just about to say something really similar to what you just said, which I think is really, really funny. So we've got to wrap this up pretty quickly right now, but I just like to give you an opportunity to kind of explain what genre of music you play, if you want to say that, or like what you're interested in, like what you like playing, and also besides that, like the ideas or like the topics that you deal with in your songs and how you approach that. So I'm just gonna let you talk about that. So just to say it again, the like genre or mix of genres, whatever, and like kind of what topics you deal with and how you deal with those topics.
Awesome. Yeah, man, I play pop soul music mostly, and my songs I write about everything, mostly what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling, or if some friends is struggling with something, or a movie that I watch, or just like a street name that I see and then I think that's interesting. So I go pretty much anywhere where my imagination would take me, and I just let it fly away. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to keep this career and going on and on. I feel like that's an endless road.
All right, sounds good. Where, if people want to check out your music or check out anything about you, where would the best place to be to find you? Just so I want you to be able to get a plug in so that if people want to find you, they can.
Cool, awesome. I would love to connect with new friends, and yeah, I feel like the best place you can find me is on Instagram. I'm very active there, and all the releases go there too. And it's basically my name, Igor, Igor, Sings, and that's it. You find me there. And there's a link to my website. You can see all the videos and all the work we've been doing lately. And I would love to connect with you.
All right. So again, if you didn't hear that right, it's Igor Sings. And if you can't find it just by typing it in, even though you have the words, you can always I follow Igor on Instagram, so you can always go to my Instagram, scroll through who I follow, and you'll find him as well. All right, Igor, I really appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation and your different thoughts about like music and creativity. I thought it was really interesting. I'm really glad we were able to talk.
Awesome, Daniel. I had a lot of fun too.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
If you enjoy this podcast and would like to support me more, what I would ask you to do is that you go to iTunes and you leave a 5-star review. That is something that really, really helps me and helps push the podcast out to different people. And it's something that doesn't cost you much time at all. So if you would do that, I would really appreciate that. And I definitely appreciate everyone who listens to this podcast. If you ever listen to this podcast and you have questions or you have topics you would like me to cover, you can send those to me and I'll look them over and I'll see which ones I think I can cover intelligently. And if you just want to reach out for anything at all, you can do that as well. Thanks for your time. My name is Daniel Poppy, and as always, this is How to Write Good.